welcome to SVG-TV News. I am Yvette Boynes with the details. Prime Minister Dr. The Honorable Ralph Gonsalves has said that between the current period and the next 3 years, government has at least $3.5 billion EC dollars in hand to aid in the recovery of this country's economy. Prime Minister Gonsalves made the announcement in New York last night at a meeting organized by the SVG Diaspora Committee.
Right at the moment, we are doing a port project. The port project is over $650 million. The contract has been awarded to a Canadian company, Aecon, and they have started their work. That is funded in 3 principal ways in addition with the government. The Caribbean Development Bank has loaned us $110 million US dollars. Soft loan. It is the largest single loan that the CDB has ever given any country with any one project in 50 years of its operation. I got a grant of $36 million from the British government.
Last evening's event was also attended by Foreign Affairs Minister Honorable Senator Kissal Peters, Ambassador to the United States of America Luan Gilchrist, Ambassador and Permanent Representative to the United Nations Rhonda King, and Consul General to New York Rodney McIntosh. A Vincentian living in the diaspora has become the latest addition to the list of ambassadors serving St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Vaughn Tony, a former resident of Caliacqua who resides in New York, was accorded the title of His Excellency Ambassador Vaughn Tony when he was made an ambassador at large during a diaspora event dubbed Vinci Diaspora Dialogue at Friends of Crown Heights on Saturday night. Ambassador Tony is well known among the Vincentian diaspora in New York and is credited for, among other things, hiring and giving many Vincentians a start when they migrate to New York. Prior to the announcement by Prime Minister Gonsalves, Consul General to New York Rodney McIntosh, on behalf of the Consulate and the SVG Diaspora Committee, presented Mr. Tony with an award for his work within the Vincentian diaspora.
As a member of the Mayor's Transition Team, New York City CAM Campaign Finance Board, Chief of Staff for Council Member Lloyd Henry, former Chief of Staff for Councilwoman Una Clark, Special Assistant to New York State Senator Leonard Stavisky, Legislative Assistant to the New York State Assembly Education Committee, and the list goes on, Ladies and gentlemen, I would like everyone to stand and give a rousing round of applause to Vaughn Tony. Mr. Tony, this is just a little token. It is not a representation that cannot compensate for what you would have done for our community. Almost every function as well that takes place in New York City or in Brooklyn happens at Friends of Crown Heights, free, of course, no charge. And the Consulate of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to the United States, our Ambassador Luan Gilchrist, the SVG Diaspora Committee, and everyone would like to say thank you very much.
Ambassador Tony expressed deep appreciation for the recognition accorded him.
I have lots of recognition and awards in my office, but there's nothing more gratifying than to be recognized by your own people, the people of St. Vincent and Grenadines. So let me say that I'm humbled, I am honored, but above all, I am inspired to continue to do the work that has brought me to this very moment in time.
Prime Minister Dr. The Honorable Ralph Gonsalves has described the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines as a resilient people and not a people of lamentations. Addressing the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly on Saturday, September 24, 2022, the Prime Minister explained to the world the difficulties faced by this country over the last 2 years and said that despite the difficult circumstances, the country is recovering and embracing fresh hope.
My small country suffered 32 volcanic eruptions which caused widespread destruction of property, immense social dislocation, immiseration of our people, and the evacuation of 1/5 of the population into emergency shelters. In early July 2021, Hurricane Elsa struck, resulting in further loss and damage. In late February 2022, open hostilities between Russia and Ukraine erupted, which exacerbated the economic turmoil which was already brewing globally. The knock-on effects of the Russia-Ukraine war has been terrible for faraway St. Vincent and the Grenadines and our Caribbean. Prices of basic commodities such as imported fuel, food, fertilizer, and hand tools have gone through the roof.
The Prime Minister told the United Nations General Assembly that St. Vincent and the Grenadines has had to face immense challenges since March 2020 and continuing. In March 2020, he said the COVID-19 pandemic arrived like the proverbial thief in the night, and although the country was never closed, much of the world closed on SVG. Life, living, and production, he said, were and still are badly affected.
And the Grenadines are working hard and smart, but without a fair and just economic order globally, and a special regard for small island exceptionalism, a global architecture of enlightened multilateralism, and internationalist solidarity. Without these things, our Herculean national efforts are unlikely to yield the requisite abundant fruit.
Meantime, Prime Minister Gonzalez has thanked the United Nations and all who came to the assistance of St. Vincent and the Grenadines during the 2021 volcanic eruptions. Addressing the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly on Saturday, September 24, 2022, Dr. Gonzalez expressed profound gratitude for the regional, hemispheric, and international solidarity accorded this country during its time of peril and immediately after the series of volcanic eruptions.
Within 24 hours of the first cataclysmic eruption, my dear friend, the Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, telephoned me and placed the Secretariat and the UN specialized agencies at my country's disposal. The World Food Programme, UNICEF, UNEP were particularly heroic in their efforts, admirably coordinated by the United Nations Regional Office in the Eastern Caribbean. The World Bank was most helpful. So too were the Caribbean community and its affiliate institutions, the Community of States of Latin America and the Caribbean, and individual nations across the world. The outpouring of regional and international solidarity was impressive and deeply appreciated.
The PM stressed, however, that episodic support must transform into structured, ongoing solidarity if small island developing states are to survive and thrive in this increasingly hostile world in which the metaphoric elephants trample with very little regard for the proverbial ants who make up much of humanity and are vital to the well-being of our global civilization's landscape and seascape.
Small island developing states is well known. Some major planks of it are concerted global action on climate change, inclusive of a sufficiency of resources for adaptation and mitigation, availability of optimal financing for development, including the rollout of a multi-dimensional vulnerability index and a compensation mechanism for loss and damage, and a special and meaningful carve-out for SIDS in international trade and arrangements, the cessation of the unacceptable weaponizing of the financial system, an appropriate reformation of the United Nations to reflect the interests of SIDS, and efficacious implementation of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, particularly in relation to eliminating hunger, poverty, and inequality.
A drug-related issue from 2014 is one of the main contributing factors to the spike in crime currently being witnessed in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This was noted by Commissioner of Police Colin John, who was a participant on SVG-TV's Viewpoint program yesterday. The number of murders recorded in SVG so far this year is already 32, and COP John said the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force is very concerned about crimes in the country.
The general genesis of this spike in crime from the police standpoint and based on our intelligence started sometime in 2014, where there was some drug transaction that went wrong. Then friends became foe, and persons, based on our intel, persons were placed on hit lists. We spoke to several of those persons, tried to get information from them. Some we got from, some said they didn't know about, but soon after, some of those same persons we warned ended up dead. So as a result of that, it has not really abated, well, at least been totally alleviated, because since that time you have persons who were killed because of association. You might find, okay, you and I are not friends, or you and I, you think that I am against you, or I might want to do something, and then Mr. Cambridge might be my friend, and because he's associated to me, things like that happen. So we pretty much know the major players. The issue is transferring intelligence into evidence that can be taken to court before tribunal that can convict persons.
The Commissioner of Police further notes that the police have been working hard over the years to put the necessary things in place to prevent murder and other similar crimes from happening in SVG. He also noted that things are being put in place to ensure that the persons who commit these crimes are caught and brought to justice.
It's something that we are putting things in place to ensure, first of all, that the persons who perpetrated these crimes are brought to justice, and also, and more importantly, to prevent murders and other similar crimes from occurring. And sometimes we do not get the justice, our persons do not get the justice as quickly as they should. Also, the police will have to take some sticks for this as well. We at times do not provide adequate feedback to persons, so that is an area that we definitely would have to improve on from the police standpoint and from the government standpoint. We are putting things in place to make it easier for persons and safer for persons to give evidence in that regard. We have had the witness special measures where persons can give evidence via video link from undisclosed location. We have also gone so far where persons can give evidence anonymously, so you persons will not know who is giving evidence against.
Director of the National Emergency Management Organization, Michelle Forbes, is cautioning motorists and Vincentians generally to desist from crossing extreme flooded areas, rivers or streams, especially from Arabica area northward. Speaking on NBC Radio this morning, Forbes said that this is something that she continues to see happening, which ends up leaving vehicles in dangerous position.
The rivers and the streams, especially from Arabica northwards, we are still seeing vehicles being stuck in the streams and people trying to cross. We're seeing trucks being, we see it on social media unfolding. I just want to ask persons to really desist from doing that, because the material is very, very soft. Material that comes down, it's very soft. So you may think that if you try to cross it with your vehicle, that if you're not touching the hard part of it, you're just going to sink. You're not going to move. And that is what we are seeing happening when these vehicles stop. The material is so soft, there's no traction for you to really push the zoom your vehicle through. Of course, we know some persons have masters, as Acting Kim was saying, have mastered the art of getting across the rivers, but we have to be mindful. Yes. It only takes about 6 inches of water to wash you away. and we have to be mindful of that. Persons on foot, persons in vehicles, that water just only about 6 inches can sweep you away. So we need to be reminded that, there are certain communities that are still fragile, especially from the volcanic eruption, because there's no vegetation to really hold the soil. So we have to be mindful that we still in the hurricane season, and heavy rainfall and landslides can happen, especially around the northeast and northwest of the island.
Given that the month of September is known as the peak of the hurricane season, and a lot more activities are taking place in this month, Vincentians are reminded to pay more attention to the drainage around their homes. Forbes is advising persons to clean the drainage around their houses to avoid landslides and other flooding hazards.
Water is channeled away from your house, or not on anybody's property, but channeled into a drainage structure if there's one, or ensure that you have drainage around your house to take away the water, but not just below your house where it can undermine that structure. You have to ensure it's channeled away and not damaging another person's property, and it can actually get into the drainage system. So we still see a lot of that happening, and we still see a lot of the persons still not paying attention to their drainage. And of course, we have the problem of retaining walls. People are constructing retaining walls without sometimes it's not robust enough. So when you have the heavy rainfall and the downpours, you're seeing that some of the retaining walls are failing, not just because of the structure only, because in and around the community, the slope of the land, the soils that you're dealing with, ensure that you have enough seepools, etc. When you construct, you have to ensure you still have enough steel in it. A lot of retaining walls are being constructed without any steel to hold up the structure, to hold up that particular structure. So we're still seeing a lot of that happening, and we're still seeing a lot of persons. It's already in the hurricane season. I'm not sure what else we can say in terms of trimming your trees. Mm-hmm. We need to ensure that that is done all year round, as a matter of fact, because we see the vegetation is growing back quickly once you have rainfall. Like over the last few weeks, we have had quite a bit of rain, and you're seeing the vegetation continue to go very quickly. So you have to ensure that the trees, overhanging trees, are trimmed so that it won't fall and damage your property or your house.
Minister of Health Honorable St. Clair Prince today attended the 30th Pan-American Sanitary Conference, which brings together ministers of health and other officials from across the Americas to determine policies and strategies to improve the health of the population of the region. Among the top officials attending the conference are PAHO's Director Carissa F. Etienne, World Health Organization's Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, United States Secretary of Health and Human Services Xavier Becerra, Secretary General of the Organization of American States Luis Almagro. The Pan-American Sanitary Conference is the organization's highest decision-making body. On Wednesday, September 28th, a new director of PAHO will also be elected to serve for the next 5 years in that capacity. The press release issued by the Agency for Public Information states that the Minister of Health also led a delegation to the Pan-American Health Organization's 30th Pan-American Sanitary Conference and the 43rd Council for Human and Social Development Health, both in Washington, D.C. Minister Prince, along with epidemiologist Tamara Bob, attended the 43rd Council for Human and Social Development Health, which took place on September 24th to 25th. The aim of that meeting was to provide updates to ministers of health and senior health officials on several health sector initiatives and mandated actions. Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, the Honorable Camilo Gonzalez, is hoping that he would be able to bring legislation to Parliament in October with a view to reducing the tariffs on newer vehicles in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The minister was at the time addressing the press conference hosted on Thursday, September 22nd at Cabinet Room.
I say I hope because the legislation, I have reviewed it months ago. But the Ministry of Finance officials thought that it would be best to wrap that, the changes in duties related to automobiles into a wider revision and reform of tariffs on other things. So it became broader than vehicles alone. So the wider tariff structure should come to Parliament on the 10th of October. And the automobile reduction is part of that. we've reformulated the way in which the price of vehicles will be adjudged at the port. Right now, it's basically just the age of the vehicle and the size of the engine. We're adding some other factors to evaluate that. But the effect of it, I don't want to, that's a whole nother press conference by itself, but the effect of it is that for new or newer cars, there'll be a significant reduction in duties, and for cars that are more efficient from a fuel standpoint, fuel efficiency, or hybrid and electrical, more efficient vehicles will also get a significant price reduction.
3 female business owners are the lucky winners of the business plan competition held under the Women's Empowerment Project SVG. 10 female entrepreneurs pitched before a 7-member panel at the Blue Lagoon Conference Room, hoping to secure a winning spot. In the end, the judges determined that the winners were Micron of Coles, Ranik John; Samantha Paperwork Designs, Samantha Robinson; Ambrosia Foods, Avenel De Silva. They would each receive grants of EC $26,000 as their prizes. On 15 September, they were among 38 female entrepreneurs who received grants from the government of the Republic of China and Taiwan. A total of EC $285,000 was disbursed in 3 categories, with the finalists for business plan competition receiving $9,300 each. The competition was the final activity under the 2nd cohort of the project, which ran from March to July. The 3rd has already started with the application and selection process, and training is set to commence on October 11th. The Women's Empowerment Project SVG is an initiative entitled Assisting the Economic Empowerment of Women in Latin America and the Caribbean in the Post-Pandemic of COVID-19. The objective is to boost the country's economy following the impact of the COVID-19 and maintaining social stability by strengthening women's economic empowerment through employment and entrepreneurship. It is being implemented by the Center for Enterprise Development, Inc., the CED. The project ends on December 31st, 2022. Questions have been raised as to what social institutions are doing to prevent crime in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, noting that crime prevention should not only be dependent on the police. This question was raised by Councillor Kesley Cambridge on the panel of SVG-TV's Viewpoint program last evening, noting that there seems to be a breakdown in the social groups in the society.
And when we're taking a step back, we have to consider, well, in my opinion, the different social institutions that are currently in our society. We have the church, the family, the school, the community. And the question that we have to ask is whether or not these social institutions, if there has been a breakdown in these social institutions, and as a result of that breakdown, we're now seeing, or we are now reaping the fruits of this dysfunction that currently exists. So when it comes to crime and persons becoming more bold or confident to commit crimes, I know that the Commissioner has a lot of work on his hands, but not only should we look at the police, but we have to look inwardly as well, because we all have a role to play in addressing the whole crime situation. When it comes to the crime situation, we have to look at all the factors that both individually and collectively contribute to the occurrence of crime, the whole issue of persons being more confident, whether or not it's a case where maybe they don't have confidence in the justice system, and I know that Joshua shed some light on that, whether or not they're not deterred by the police, and I know that the Commissioner would speak on that as well, and whether or not it's a case where the morals in society have broken down to the extent where we have a situation where persons just don't care and would act out of the whole normal type of behavior.
Cambridge further outlines some factors that lead to a person becoming a criminal.
Well, you have to look at it in two folds: the person who commits the crime and the victim as well. So I'm thinking that persons who commit the crime, it's whether or not, on one hand, they don't believe that the punishment that is going to be given to them is anything for them to be concerned about. You have that aspect there. Additionally, the fact of them getting caught. So if I know that I'm going to do something and there's a small likelihood that I'll be caught, I'm going to do it. And then on the other hand, with the victim, persons not having confidence in the justice system, and on the other hand, persons not having confidence in the police to have these persons caught. So you have that balance there somewhat, where somebody's going to commit a crime, I'm not going to get caught, or if I do get caught, the way in which the justice system operates, I'm going to get out in any time. So there's a lot there to unpack, as you have said.
Businesses in South Windward are poised to benefit from increased digital presence thanks to Miss SVG contestant Shadin McLean. McLean, who is sponsored by Devon in this year's Miss SVG pageant, intends to catapult businesses from her community of South Windward into the digital realm for her community project, which focuses on entrepreneurship development. At the heart of the project is Vinci Biz Hub by South Windward. Vinci Biz Hub is a platform that provides South Windward-based businesses with business development and promotional guidance, as well as allows consumers to access these businesses in a single convenient hub. At present, the platform is host to over 50 businesses in the community that cover a range of industries including retail, construction, automotive, trucking, food, manufacturing, fashion, film, education, and more. Vinci Biz Hub allows consumers to access business profiles, locations, meet the entrepreneurs, videos, interviews, etc., and can be accessed by visiting www.vincibizhub.com. Given the continued global thrust towards the inclusion of technology into our everyday lives, McLean believes entrepreneurs who incorporate an online presence into their operations position themselves more competitively to answer to the growing needs of consumers whose habits reflect a shift seeking more and more services and products online. Ms. Devon was set to kick off her activities on September 24, 2022, with the launch of the Vinci Biz Hub website and the distribution of business cards to entrepreneurs.